She spent 2 days making that cake, 2 full days, yellow frosting, 4 layers, little dinosaur toys pressed into the sides because her baby boy loved dinosaurs more than anything in the world. She did everything herself, her hands, her kitchen, her love, because her little boy was turning 4, and she wanted him to feel like the most important person on earth. 40 people stood in that backyard. And then her husband grabbed the back of her head, slow, deliberate, like a man who had already decided what he was going to do before he walked outside. He pressed her face into that cake, in front of every single person she had ever cooked for, every person she had ever opened her home to, every neighbor, every friend, every family member. His girlfriend was already recording before the frosting hit the tablecloth. She was smiling, but his mother stood 3 feet away. She did not move. She crossed her arms and looked at her son like he had finally done something she had been waiting a long time to see. 38 adults stood frozen. Not one person said stop. Not one person took a single step forward. The only person who moved was a 4-year-old boy in dinosaur sneakers. He ran across the grass, screaming one word, "Mama." Now here is what none of them knew. Not the husband, not the girlfriend with the camera already raised, not the mother with her arms crossed like she had just watched something get fixed. The woman standing at that table with yellow frosting dripping from her chin was the only daughter of Thomas Reed. You may not know that name, but every bank in the country does, every boardroom does, every hospital wing and university library and tech company that changed the way the world works does. Thomas Reed was worth more money than most small countries. And his daughter had walked away from every dollar of it, not because she was forced to, because she wanted to be loved for who she was, not what she came from. Stay with me, because what she did next did not just change her life, it changed every single life in that backyard. And it will change the way you look at the quiet woman standing right next to you. This story is not just about betrayal. It is not just about a man who made a terrible choice in front of 40 people. It is about what happens when a woman finally stops being small in a space that was never supposed to hold her down. Every week on this channel, we bring you stories like Nora's, stories where dignity gets tested, where silence gets mistaken for weakness, where the truth, when it finally comes, lands with the full weight of every single quiet moment that came before it. Some lessons cannot be explained, they can only be told. And some stories, once you hear them, never really leave you. Here is where we start. A backyard in North Charleston, 40 people, a 4-layer yellow birthday cake with green dinosaur frosting that a woman spent 2 days making by hand because her son told her yellow was the happiest color, and she believed him completely. Paper plates with T-Rex pictures, a banner that said "Liam is 4" hanging from the old oak tree in the corner, 4 candles, bright in the October afternoon. The little boy stood on his tiptoes to see them better. His eyes went wide, the way only a 4-year-old's eyes go wide. Mocked like the whole world had been made just for this one moment. He blew them out in one breath. Everybody cheered. His mother knelt beside him and whispered something in his ear. And he laughed, the kind of laugh that fills a yard completely. And then his father stepped forward. He did not shout. He did not look angry. His face was completely calm. That was the part that stayed with people afterward. How calm he was. He put one hand on the back of his wife's head, and he pressed her face into that cake. Not fast, not in a rush, slow, like a man making a point he had been planning to make for a long time. Yellow frosting exploded across the table. It covered her eyes, her nose, the corners of her mouth. Her hands slammed flat on the table. Her whole body went rigid. The yard went silent. His girlfriend raised her phone. She had it ready before the silence even fully landed. She hit record and she was already smiling. Not nervously, not in shock. She smiled the way a person smiles when a plan arrives exactly on time. His mother, Ruth, a small woman in a pale green blouse, uncrossed and recrossed her arms. She turned to the woman standing beside her and said 3 words, just loud enough to carry. Good. Finally, enough. 38 adults stood in that yard and not one of them moved. Not one voice said stop. Not one hand reached forward. The only person who moved was Liam. He launched himself off his little chair and ran across the uneven grass. His arms were stretched out in front of him. His dinosaur sneakers slapped the ground. He reached his mother. His small hands found her face. He tried to wipe the frosting away with his fingers. Mama, mama. Oh, mama. His voice cracked through that silence, like something breaking open. She lifted her head slowly. She did not scream. She did not throw anything. She did not curse at anyone. She reached down, she picked up her son. She wiped his tears first with the edge of her own sleeve before she touched a single drop of frosting on her own face. Then she walked inside. The screen door closed very quietly behind her. Her husband turned back to the party. He smiled. She is fine, he said. She always makes everything about her. Now, before I tell you what happened next, before I tell you who this woman really was, I need you to understand something. This story does not begin in that backyard. It begins 17 years earlier on a private estate on the coast of Maine, in a house with 14 rooms, and a garden that Margaret Reed had planted herself before she got sick. And it begins with a little girl who lost her mother at age 9 and was given, in place of everything she lost, a small gold locket on a thin chain. Inside the locket was a photograph, and that locket never once left her neck. Not in 17 years, not even on the day her husband pressed her face into yellow frosting in front of everyone she had ever invited into her home. Nora Reed grew up the only child of Thomas Reed on a property that sat on 12 acres above the Atlantic coast, not the loud kind of wealth, not the kind you see on television, the quiet kind, the kind that has been there so long it has stopped needing to announce itself. Thomas Reed wore the same style of flannel shirts he had worn since he was 30. While he drove a truck that had a crack in the dashboard, he had been meaning to fix for 6 years. He knew every person who worked on his property, not just their names, their children's names, the things that worried them, at 3 a.m. He built his first company in a rented office above a dry cleaner in Portland when he was 24 years old. By the time Nora was born, that company had become something else entirely. By the time Margaret got sick, Thomas Reed's name was on buildings in 4 countries. Margaret Reed was the kind of woman who walked into a room and made it quieter, not because she was loud, because she was so completely herself that everyone around her relaxed. She taught Nora to bake, to read, to sit with someone who was hurting and not try to fix it right away. Just sit, just be there. When Nora was 9, Margaret's illness moved faster than anyone expected. On the last morning, Thomas sat beside Nora on the edge of the bed and unclasped the small gold locket from Margaret's wrist. He placed it in Nora's hand. "Your mother wore this every day of her life," he said. "Not for good luck, not for any magic reason. She wore it so that no matter where she was never far from the people she loved most. You are in there too, Nora Bear. You always were." Nora put it on that morning, and she never took it off. When Nora turned 23, she did something that every single person around her thought was either brave or foolish. She sat at the kitchen table across from her father and told him she wanted to leave, not the estate, not him. She did not want to leave any of that. She wanted to leave the name. "Daddy," and she said, "I want someone to love me, not the Reed name, not the number in any account, not what I come from. I want someone to look at me and choose me, because of who I actually am. And I want to know for the rest of my life that it was real." Thomas was quiet for a long time. The kitchen clock ticked. Outside, a boat horn sounded somewhere on the water. Then he said, "You know what that kind of trust costs, Nora?" "Yes, sir." "You know there are people who will see an open heart and walk straight through it without wiping their feet?" "Yes, sir." He looked at his daughter for a long time. Then he nodded. He set up a trust in her name, untouched, growing. He told her it would be there no matter what. He told her the door to the estate was always unlocked. He told her she never had to explain herself to come home. "Just come," he said. "Just walk in." She packed one bag. She changed her last name publicly to Calloway, her mother's maiden name, which felt like keeping Margaret close, without advertising why. She drove to Charleston, South Carolina, in a car with a broken passenger window crank. She was happy. The specific happy that comes from building your own ordinary life and knowing it is yours. 6 months after she arrived, she met Marcus Webb. Marcus Webb grew up in a 2-bedroom house in Somerville with his mother Ruth and no one else. His father left when Marcus was 8. Ruth Webb raised her son on a grocery store manager's salary and a belief so deep and so absolute that it became the air Marcus breathed. She told him he was exceptional. She told him the world had not yet given him what it owed him. She said it so many times, and with such complete conviction that Marcus could not tell any more where his mother's voice ended and his own thoughts began. He was charming, genuinely charming, the kind of man who could make a stranger feel like a friend in 4 minutes. He met Nora at a farmer's market on a Saturday in April. She was looking at honey. He was pretending to look at apples so he could think of something to say to her. She noticed. She smiled and said, "Those apples have been there since last Saturday." He laughed. He admitted he had been standing there trying to figure out the right opening line. She said, "The honest ones are always better than the clever ones." He thought about that for 3 days. They dated for 11 months. He proposed in her apartment kitchen on a Thursday evening with a ring he had saved 8 months to buy. But he got down on one knee and she said yes before he got the full sentence out. Small wedding, 30 people. She wore her mother's dress. The gold locket was at her throat as she said, "I do." She thought she had found exactly what she had left Maine to find. The first 2 years were real, not perfect. Nothing real is perfect, but genuinely, fully, honestly good. They bought a small house in North Charleston, a yard with an oak tree in the corner. Nora planted a garden along the back fence, tomatoes, basil, sunflowers that grew taller than the fence posts. Marcus teased her about the sunflowers and then cut them for the kitchen table every week from June to September. Liam was born 16 months after the wedding. Marcus held his son for the first 2 hours and would not put him down. Nora watched him standing at the hospital window, with Liam against his chest, talking to him in a low voice about all the things they were going to do together. She thought, This is exactly why I drove south with a broken window crank and found a job and built something from nothing. This is what I came here for." She was not wrong about that moment. She was wrong about how long it was going to last. The shift started small, it always does. Marcus got promoted, then the commission check started doubling. He bought a new car, then a second new car. None of those things are wrong alone, but Nora noticed something underneath them. Something that had nothing to do with what he had and everything to do with what he now believed he deserved. The small daily texts slowed down, then stopped. When she talked, he listened with a pause. Just a fraction too long, the specific pause. What of a man deciding whether what you are saying is worth engaging with? She noticed all of it. She catalogued it quietly. The way smart people catalogue small tremors before a large one, hoping they are wrong. Then two things happened at the same time, and nothing was ever the same after that. The first thing was Ruth. Ruth Webb had never liked Nora. Not from the first Sunday dinner Marcus brought her to the house in Somerville. She had looked at Nora that first evening, at her quiet way, her simple clothes, the gold locket at her throat, the way she listened more than she talked, and Ruth made a decision in the first 10 minutes. This woman was not enough for her son. She never said it that directly. Baby, she is comfortable with small. You are not a small man. You never were. She said it on Sunday phone calls, on holiday dinners, tut in the car after every family gathering. Marcus had been hearing his mother tell him he deserved more his entire life. She was very good at it. The second thing was Vanessa Cole. Vanessa Cole did not wander into Marcus Webb's world. She walked into it with a plan drawn up months before. She was 32, polished, precise. The kind of woman who understood that certain men do not want a partner, they want an audience. She had done this before, not once, twice, 2 previous relationships with married men, both of them newly successful, both of them intoxicated by the idea that they had finally outgrown the people standing closest to them. She had taken what she needed from each situation. Then she had left. No forwarding address, no goodbye, nothing behind her. She arrived at Marcus's real estate brokerage as a new buyer's agent, in February. Within 3 weeks, she had his schedule memorized. Within 6 weeks, she had his complete attention. She texted him good morning before Nora was awake. She texted him good night after Nora was asleep. She made him feel at every single moment like the most important man in every room she chose to put him in. What Nora did not know yet was the part that went even deeper than this, because Vanessa Cole had not found Marcus Webb on her own. She had been directed there, and the person who directed her had been standing in Nora's life from the very beginning. But we will come back to that. Now I want to stop the story for just a moment, because some of you are already asking the question. You are thinking, why did she not leave? Why did she not say something the moment she noticed? And I want to answer that honestly, because it matters. Love, the real kind, the kind a person builds an entire life around, does not die on a Tuesday because the man you gave it to came home smelling like someone else's perfume. It dies slowly, in pieces, in a long series of small moments that each, standing alone, seem like they could be explained. Each one seems survivable. And the cruel truth about that kind of slow erosion is that by the time you can see it clearly, you are already deep inside it. If any part of that sounds familiar right now, I want you to hear this directly. Understanding why you stayed is not the same as accepting that you have to keep staying. Those are 2 completely different things. It was a neighbor named Dorothy who first told Nora the truth. Dorothy Marsh was 67 years old. She lived in the pale yellow house directly across the street. She walked her old beagle every morning at 7 and every evening at 6, and she noticed everything that happened on that street with the calm, complete attention of a woman who has seen enough of life to know that the small details are always the ones that matter. She knocked on Nora's door on a Wednesday morning in July. She had a plate of lemon cookies. They sat at the kitchen table and had coffee. Then Dorothy set her mug down carefully and said, "I want to tell you something, and I need you to hear it all the way through before you say anything back. Can you do that?" Nora said yes. "There is a woman," Dorothy said, "who has been in your driveway twice this week while you were at work. I got the plate because something about it did not sit right with me." She slid a piece of paper across the table, the license plate number, the date, the time, both times. "I am not telling you what to think," she said. "I am just telling you what I saw. And I am telling you because I have a daughter your age, and I would want someone to tell her." Nora looked at the paper for a long time. Then she said, "Thank you, Dorothy." She meant it completely. Over the next 4 weeks, Nora collected everything. Dorothy's notes, bank statements, a receipt from a hotel 40 minutes outside of Charleston, billed to their joint account. On a night, Marcus said he was at a conference, a charge at a jewelry store that was not Nora's birthday, not their anniversary, just a charge on a random Wednesday in August. Then there was Priya. Priya Anand was 34 years old, an emergency room physician at MUSC. Sharp and direct and funny in the specific way of people who have spent 10 years watching humans at their worst and found a way to keep caring about every single one of them. She and Nora had met in a yoga class 3 years earlier. It was Priya who found the text thread. She was not snooping. She had borrowed Marcus's phone at a cookout because her own battery was dead. The screen lit up before she could dial. She read 4 words and set the phone down very carefully and spent the rest of that cookout looking at Nora across the yard, laughing with other guests, completely unaware. Priya drove to Nora's house the following morning at 7:30. She sat across from her at the kitchen table. She said, "I need to tell you something, and I need you to know that I am on your side before I start. No matter what." And that is not going to change. Then she told her. Nora sat with it for a full minute without saying anything. Then she said, "I know. I have been collecting it." Priya reached across the table and put her hand over Nora's. She said, "Okay, then we figure out what comes next, together." On a Sunday morning, with Liam at Ruth's house, Nora sat across from Marcus at the kitchen table and placed a folder between them. She did not raise her voice. She did not cry. She opened the folder and she let the evidence speak first. Marcus looked at it. He looked at each page, then he sat back and said, "And what exactly do you plan to do with this, Nora?" She told him she was considering her options. He smiled. "You have no income of your own," he said. "You quit your job when Liam was born. You have no money, no career, no connections in this city, or outside of a neighbor with a dog and a doctor friend who is too busy to fight anyone's battles. So I will ask you again, what exactly are you going to do?" She held his eyes and did not answer. He picked up his phone. He called Ruth right there at the kitchen table while Nora sat across from him. "Hey, Mama," he said, "can you hold on to Liam for a few days? Nora needs some space to sort herself out." Ruth arrived in 22 minutes. She had Liam's bag packed when she walked through the door. She had been waiting for this call. Nora stood in the front doorway and watched Ruth buckle Liam into his car seat. Liam waved from the back window. He was smiling because he was 4 years old and did not yet understand that some goodbyes carry more weight than they look like they do from a car window. Or Nora stood in the doorway for a long time. Then she closed the door. She sat on the hallway floor with her back against the wall. She understood something now that she had not fully understood before. This had not been a marriage failing. This had been a decision being carried out, and she had been the only person at that table who had not known it. The week Liam was gone, Marcus stopped pretending entirely. Vanessa's car appeared in the driveway on Monday evening. Again on Thursday. Ruth came over Friday, and the three of them ate takeout on the back porch. At the table, Nora had refinished herself with sandpaper and 2 coats of paint on a Saturday last spring. Sandra, Marcus's cousin, posted a photo that Saturday night. Marcus, Ruth, Vanessa, a restaurant in downtown Charleston, laughing, tagged, no Nora, no Liam, on a complete family portrait with 2 people surgically removed. Priya saw it first. She sent it to Nora with no caption, just the image. Nora called her. Priya came over immediately. She found Nora sitting on the kitchen floor with her back against the cabinets, not crying, just completely still. The particular stillness of a person who has moved past crying into something quieter, something colder, something that in the right hands is actually far more useful than tears. "I do not know how to fight this," Nora said. "I do not even know what I am fighting." Priya sat on the floor beside her, without hesitating. She said, "Then we figure that out first, and while we do that, you are going to eat something, because you cannot fight anything properly on an empty stomach." Nora almost smiled. Almost. Liam came home after 9 days. Nora threw herself into his birthday party, the way she threw herself into everything she loved, with both hands, all the way, nothing held back. She baked a 4-layer yellow cake with green frosting, because Liam had told her in June that yellow was the happiest color and green was the best color for dinosaurs, and she had filed both of those things away like facts that mattered. Because to her, they did. She hung a banner from the oak tree. She set out paper plates with dinosaur pictures. She spent 2 days on the cake alone. Marcus said he had invited some guests of his own. He did not mention Vanessa by name. He did not tell Nora that he had told Vanessa to come in through the front gate, like she belonged inside it. Nora was standing at the food table, arranging cups, when she saw it happen in real time. Vanessa arrived in a sundress and heeled sandals, with Marcus's hand at the small of her back. Ruth was at the gate. She hugged Vanessa, the way you hug someone you have been expecting for a long time and are genuinely glad to finally see. Nora set down the stack of cups, slowly. She looked at the yard she had decorated, the banner she had hung herself, the cake she had spent 2 days making, the folding chairs she had carried from the garage, one at a time. And she understood. This was not a birthday party. This was a message delivered in front of 40 people. And she was the subject of the message. The candles were lit at 2:30 in the afternoon. The yard smelled like October and cut grass and the sugar of yellow birthday cake. Liam stood on his tiptoes to see the 4 candles better. His face caught the light of them. His eyes were completely serious, with the specific seriousness of a small person who understands that wishing is not something you rush. Nora knelt beside him. She put one hand on his small back. "Make a wish, baby," she said quietly. He scrunched his whole face. He blew. All 4 candles went out in one breath. Everyone clapped. Nora smiled, a real one. The first one that day that had not cost her anything to produce. For exactly 1 second, that yard was simply a birthday party. Then Marcus stepped forward. He did not raise his voice. He did not look angry. His face was calm, completely, deliberately calm. He placed his hand on the back of Nora's head, and he pressed her face into that cake. Not quickly, slowly, with the specific, measured force of a decision already made, long before this moment. His yellow frosting exploded across the tablecloth. It covered her forehead, Her eyes, her nose, the corners of her mouth, her palms slammed flat on the table, her whole body locked. The yard went silent. Vanessa raised her phone. She hit record before the silence had fully settled. She was smiling, not because she was surprised, because this was exactly what was supposed to happen. Ruth uncrossed and crossed her arms. She looked at her son with something on her face that was not shock. It was satisfaction. She turned to Sandra beside her and said quietly, but not quietly enough, "Now maybe she will understand what kind of family this is." 38 adults stood in that yard. Not one of them moved. Not one voice said anything. Not one hand reached toward Nora. The only person who moved was Liam. He screamed. He launched himself off his chair and ran across the grass, on his short legs, stumbling on the uneven ground, arms stretched wide. His hands found his mother's face. His small fingers pressed gently against her cheeks, trying to wipe away what had been done. "Mama! Mama! Mama!" His voice split through that silence, like a crack running the full length of something that had already been under too much pressure for too long. Nora lifted her head. Yellow frosting ran down her face in slow lines. She felt the heat of 40 people standing around her. She felt the phone raised and recording. She felt the specific cold of understanding that not one person in that yard who was old enough to make a choice had chosen to move toward her. She did not scream. She did not curse. She did not throw a single thing. She reached down. She picked up her son. She wiped his tears first, with the edge of her own sleeve before she touched one drop of frosting on her own face. Then she turned and walked inside. The screen door closed softly behind her. Marcus turned back to the party. He said, "She is fine. She does this. She loves the attention." In the downstairs bathroom, with the door locked, Nora held Liam on her hip. His face was in her neck. His small body was shaking. She stood at the mirror. She looked at herself. Yellow frosting covered her face like something that had been put there on purpose, which it had. The gold locket at her throat was smeared with cake. She cleaned the locket first, carefully. With the corner of a wet washcloth, she rubbed the small clasp until the gold caught the bathroom light again. She looked at her son. "Mama is okay, baby," she whispered. "Mama is always okay." Her hands did not stop shaking for 30 minutes. 45 minutes later, with Liam asleep on the bathroom rug, Nora checked her phone. 61 notifications. The video had been shared to 4 Facebook groups, a Reddit thread, and 2 separate Instagram accounts with large followings. The caption on Vanessa's post read, "She finally got what she's been asking for," followed by a laughing face. She set the phone down, then she picked it back up because she needed to check the bank account. She needed to know if she had enough money to take Liam somewhere safe tonight. The balance was negative $3,040. She pressed 0. She waited on hold for 7 minutes, listening to music that was supposed to be calming. A woman answered. Nora asked about the balance. The woman told her there had been a cash advance taken on a credit line attached to her social security number. A card she had never applied for, a card she had never activated, a card she had never once held in her hands. She asked how much was charged. $52,000, hotels, jewelry, a weekend trip to Miami, a spa visit. The morning after, Nora had taken Liam to his checkup alone because Marcus said he had a showing he could not cancel, all charged in her name, all without her knowledge, all without her signature. She sat down on the bathroom floor. Liam was asleep a foot away. His chest rose and fell in the easy rhythm of a small person who still trusts the world enough to sleep deeply inside it. She had no money. Her credit had been destroyed. Her face was on the internet, all covered in the frosting she had made with her own hands. The man who had arranged all of this was in her backyard, with the woman he had chosen instead, finishing the food she had prepared. This was the flaw, and here is what I need you to understand. The flaw is not the ending. For some people, the flaw is where they finally find out what they are actually made of, because something happens in the dark when you have nothing left, and a sleeping child beside you, and the whole world telling you that you do not matter. Something very quiet stands up. 3 a.m. Liam was asleep beside her on the bed. His hand was curled around the small plastic triceratops he carried everywhere. Nora lay in the dark with her phone. She scrolled to a contact she had not called in 4 years, not from anger, not from distance, and from the particular pride of a woman who made a choice and needed to live fully inside it. Thomas Reed. She pressed call. It rang twice. Nora Bear. His voice was exactly the same. Unhurried, even. The voice of a man who has been standing in the same place a long time and is not surprised by any kind of weather. She said, "Dad, I need to tell you everything. And when I am done, I need you to let me decide what happens next. Not you, me. Can you do that?" A pause, then yes. "Tell me everything." She talked for an hour and 20 minutes. She told him all of it, the year of small erosions, the dinner she made and waited at alone until midnight, the receipts, Dorothy's notes, Priya's phone call, the bank account, the credit card, the birthday party. Her voice stayed flat and steady the whole time. Clear, like a person reading facts aloud, all in a quiet room. Thomas listened without speaking once. When she finished, the line was quiet for 8 full seconds. Then he said, "What do you want, Nora? Not what you are angry about, not what you want me to do. What do you want for your life?" She said, "I want Liam safe. I want what he did with my name, documented and addressed through every legal channel that exists, and I want to walk back into my own life, standing up. I am not asking you to fight for me, Dad. I am asking you to hand me what I need and trust me to use it." A long pause. Then, "That is my girl." A man named Robert Finch called Nora directly at 8 the following morning. He had been Thomas Reed's legal counsel for 19 years. He was 61, silver-haired. His voice had the specific, measured quality of someone who has sat across from very powerful people in very difficult rooms and found none of it particularly rattling. He asked her one question before they began. "What outcome do you want? Not what you are angry about." The outcome, she told him specifically. Primary custody of Liam established before anything else moved. The credit fraud documented and reported to the proper authorities. The video preserved as evidence of abuse for the divorce proceedings. Nothing theatrical, just the facts in the right rooms with the right weight. Robert made notes. Then he said, "Give me 72 hours. He called back in 48. "Mrs. Webb," he said, "we have documented Vanessa Cole's history with 2 previous married men. That pattern is usable, but there is something else." He paused. "Miss Cole and your mother-in-law, Ruth Webb, I have a documented prior relationship. They met at a charity event in Mount Pleasant 14 months before Miss Cole submitted her application at your husband's brokerage. We have phone records. We have a financial transaction. Ruth Webb made a direct payment to Vanessa Cole's personal account 11 days after Miss Cole submitted her application." Nora sat down slowly in the kitchen chair. She thought about every Sunday phone call she had heard through the wall, every holiday dinner where Ruth had made her feel like a guest in her own marriage, every time Ruth had arrived precisely when something was fragile and made it more so. She thought about the birthday party. Ruth's arms crossed, that look on her face. She had not been watching a marriage come apart. She had been watching a woman work carefully and deliberately and to dismantle it, because she had decided long before Liam was born that Nora Calloway was not the right person for her son, and had chosen to do something about it. "What do you need from me?" Nora asked. "Nothing yet," Robert said. "Hold on, just a little longer." 3 weeks after the birthday party, Marcus Webb received an invitation, heavy envelope, cream-coloured cardstock, gold lettering, the Carolina Legacy Business Summit, black tie, Francis Marion Hotel, Charleston, a handwritten note indicating he had been selected for special recognition as one of the region's most promising young business leaders. He called Vanessa from the parking lot of his brokerage the moment he read it. "We have a gala," he said. She responded with exactly the enthusiasm he had come to depend on. He bought a new tie, had his shoes shined, and told Ruth to find something elegant, told Sandra to do the same. He did not know that Thomas Reed was the summit's lead sponsor. He had never needed to know that name. He arrived with Vanessa on his arm and Ruth at his side, and took his place at the VIP table near the front of the ballroom. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, a string quartet playing something soft, 280 of the most connected people in South Carolina in one room. Marcus looked around that ballroom with the satisfaction of a man who believes he has finally arrived, somewhere that matches his level. Ruth straightened the pearl necklace she had bought on credit for the occasion. Sandra took photographs for her social media. Nobody mentioned Nora. Nobody thought of her. She had been erased from the evening before it began. That same afternoon, a garment box arrived at Priya's apartment where Nora and Liam had been staying. Inside was a dress, navy blue, simple, cut with the kind of precision that does not need decoration because the woman who wears it is the decoration. A card in her father's handwriting tucked into the tissue paper. "You were always the whole compass, Nora Bear, not just the needle." Priya stood in the bedroom doorway while Nora dressed. She did not say anything for a long moment. Then she said, "You look like someone who is about to end a story the right way." Nora fastened the gold locket at her throat. She looked at herself in the mirror. She did not look triumphant. She did not look angry. She looked like a woman who has walked through enough fire to know that she is not the thing that burns. Thomas Reed spoke first at the summit. He talked about legacy, about the difference between men who build something real and men who spend their years performing success while quietly destroying the people closest to them. He spoke without notes, with the unhurried authority of a man who has never needed a room to approve of him in order to fill it. The room was very still. Then Thomas said, "Tonight I want to introduce someone who has shown me more about grace under genuine pressure than anyone I have known in 68 years. My daughter." The ballroom doors opened. Nora walked in, posture straight, eyes forward, the navy dress, the gold locket catching every chandelier in that room. No performance, no expression of triumph, just stillness. Complete and unshakable stillness, the kind that comes from a woman who has decided finally that she is done being small and in a space that should have always belonged to her. She did not look at Marcus's table. She walked through the center of that ballroom. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Forks lowered. Glasses paused halfway to mouths. 280 people went quiet in the specific way people go quiet when they feel they are watching something that actually matters. She walked up the stage steps. She took her father's hand. She turned and faced the room. Marcus's champagne glass stopped halfway to his mouth. His brain was running fast now, trying to catch up with what his eyes were seeing. His wife on that stage, next to that man, the man whose name was on the gold lettering of the invitation, sitting in his jacket pocket right now. Vanessa's hand slid off his arm. Her smile collapsed, not slowly. All at once, like a structure, with nothing underneath it. Ruth gripped the edge of the tablecloth with both hands. The pearl necklace suddenly felt very heavy and very small. Sandra put her phone down for the first time all evening. Nora took the microphone from her father. Her hand was steady. Her voice, when she spoke, did not shake. She did not raise it. She did not need to. "I want to tell you a story," she said, "about a woman who had everything and gave it up, not because anyone made her, not because she was naive, because she believed with her whole heart that being loved for who you are is worth more than being valued for what you come from." She told all of it, the choice to leave Maine, the farmer's market, the man who pretended to look at apples because he could not think of the right opening line, the wedding, her mother's dress, the gold locket at her throat as she said "I do," the dinners she ate alone, the candles that melted to nothing before he walked through the door, the receipts, the hotel charge, the credit card, opened in her name, without her knowledge. And then she said, 3 weeks ago, I stood in my backyard at my son's 4th birthday party. I had spent 2 days making a 4-layer yellow cake, because my little boy told me yellow is the happiest color. He blew out his candles. And then my husband grabbed the back of my head and pressed my face into that cake. Slowly, deliberately, in front of every person I had ever opened my home to. The room did not move. His girlfriend recorded it on her phone. She was smiling before she hit record. His mother crossed her arms and nodded and said, "Now maybe she will understand what kind of family this is. Yet not one adult in that yard moved toward me." She paused. The only person who came to me was my 4-year-old son. He ran across the yard with both arms stretched out, screaming my name. She let that land. That woman is me. She did not point. She did not need to. Every head in that room turned toward Marcus's table. Behind Nora, a screen lit up. The video played. 47 seconds. In a room full of 280 people who now knew exactly who her father was. Every second of that footage arrived like a verdict delivered in the correct room at last. Robert Finch stepped to a second microphone, calm, professional, every word placed with precision. He announced the formal documentation of credit fraud, totaling $52,000, opened in Nora Webb's name without her knowledge or consent. He confirmed that legal proceedings had been initiated with the South Carolina Attorney General. He stated that the property Marcus Webb currently occupied had been held in a Reed family trust since its purchase, and that occupancy had been formally revoked that evening. Then he said, "Additionally, we have obtained documentation confirming that the introduction between Marcus Webb and Vanessa Cole was arranged deliberately by Ruth Webb 14 months prior to Miss Cole's employment at the brokerage and was accompanied by a direct financial payment. This was not accidental. It is documented. It will be presented in full in the civil proceedings." The room went completely still. Ruth stood up. One hand flat on the table, she opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Marcus turned and looked at his mother. His face held an expression that had never been on it before. She sat back down. He reached under the table for Vanessa's hand. It was not there. Vanessa was already typing on her phone. Not to Marcus, not about Marcus. She had identified her next situation 2 weeks prior. She was managing her exit with the quiet efficiency of someone who has done this enough times to have built a system for it. She did not say goodbye. She did not look at him. She simply became, in the space of that moment, someone who had already left. Nora placed the microphone gently on the podium. She kissed her father on the cheek. She walked off that stage with the same unhurried stillness she had walked in with. She did not look back. Marcus was served papers at the brokerage on Monday morning. In the parking lot, he was in front of 3 co-workers who had been standing in his backyard 3 weeks earlier and watched his wife walk inside alone. They did not look at him the same way now. His broker called him into the back office and told him the video, now carrying the full weight of the summit coverage and the fraud documentation, had become something the company could not be associated with. He was placed on indefinite unpaid leave. He drove to the house. The locks were changed. His clothes were in boxes on the front porch, folded neatly, shirts folded correctly, the way Nora had shown him early in the marriage, when she laughed at how badly he had been doing it and gently fixed it, without making him feel embarrassed. That detail undid something in him that no legal document had touched. He called her phone. Voicemail. Her voice on the recording was calm and unhurried. The voice of a woman who has already crossed to the other side of something he was only just beginning to fall into. He drove to Vanessa's apartment building, buzzed her unit. No answer. The building manager told him Miss Cole had cleared out 4 days ago, left nothing behind, no forwarding address, not a single trace. Because to Vanessa, Marcus Webb had always been nothing more than a chapter she had already finished reading. He sat in a gas station parking lot with the engine off. He sat there for a very long time. And then it arrived. Not slowly, all at once. Like a wave that had been building in water he had never once thought to look at. What he had lost. Not the house, not the income, not the status. Her. And the woman who spent 2 days making a yellow birthday cake because her son said yellow was the happiest color, who set the table with candles on ordinary evenings for no reason except that she loved him, who greeted every guest with warmth even when they treated her like furniture, who touched a gold locket for steadiness and never once explained to anyone why, who had a father who could buy every brokerage in the state and had never said a word about it. She had loved him that much. She had trusted him with everything, and he had destroyed it for a woman who had been composing her exit message before she walked out the door. Ruth Webb stopped attending her church after 4 members of her Sunday school class approached her in the parking lot following the summit. She stopped hosting family dinners. She sat in her house in Somerville for a long time in a quiet that was entirely new to her. For 30 years she had been building her son into a version of himself that only existed in her telling of it. She had nothing left to say. Sandra deleted the steakhouse photo, but screenshots live longer than regret. They always do. Vanessa resurfaced 5 months later in Savannah, different city, same blueprint, same patience, same practiced warmth, aimed at exactly the right places. But Robert Finch's office had been expecting it. He had already forwarded the complete documentation to a family attorney in Savannah at the request of that man's wife, who had found her way to Nora through a quiet network that Nora had helped build. Nora never announced it. She simply made herself available, i.e. to women who needed what she had once needed on a bathroom floor at 3 a.m. Someone to hand them the right tool and step back. 6 weeks after the summit, Nora packed her and Liam's things into the same car she had driven south in 11 years earlier. The same broken window crank. Liam sat in the back seat, with his triceratops and his sneakers on the wrong feet because he had put them on himself, and she did not have the heart to tell him. He fell asleep somewhere in the mountains of North Carolina, his head tilted against the window. Nora drove through the Blue Ridge as the sun came up over the ridge. The light came through the trees in long gold bars, the way it only does in October. She knew every curve of that road, the way you know something you have carried in your body, since before you had words for it. She touched the gold locket once. She did not look in the rearview mirror. The estate was exactly as she remembered. The stone fountain at the end of the main drive, the oak trees along the east fence going amber and gold, the library, the back porch, the 12 acres above the Atlantic. Liam ran through the garden on his first afternoon. He chased a bird. He collected small pine cones in his pockets until his pants would not stay up. He presented them to Nora with the seriousness of someone giving something deeply valuable. Thomas put him on his shoulders and walked the garden paths until dinner. That evening, Nora and Thomas sat on the back porch. 2 glasses of sweet tea, the October light long and gold across the old boards. After a long time, Nora said, "And I thought love was supposed to feel like home." Thomas took a slow sip. He set his glass down. He watched Liam below in the garden, turning pine cones into whatever a 4-year-old decides pine cones are. Then he turned to his daughter. "It is, Nora Bear," he said quietly. "You were just in the wrong house." She smiled, small, real. The first one in a very long time that did not cost her anything to make. Liam turned 5 on a Saturday in October. The kitchen in the main estate was large and full of morning light. The cake was 4 layers, yellow sponge, green frosting, made by Nora's hands on a Friday morning while Liam sat on the counter and tried to steal frosting with his finger 3 separate times and was caught every time, and thought this was the funniest thing that had ever happened. And it was never about the kitchen size. It was never about the marble countertops or the light or the view of the water. It was about a mother making something sweet for her child with her own hands. That had not changed. It would not change. The people around the table were different now. Thomas at the head. Priya and her husband, who had driven up from Charleston with good wine, and the cheerful refusal to make anything more sentimental than it needed to be. Dorothy Marsh and her husband, who had accepted the invitation with the warmth of people who understand that showing up matters. Robert Finch had sent flowers which Liam had immediately incorporated into a game involving his triceratops and rules that were unclear to everyone, including Liam. Liam's new kindergarten teacher, Ms. Okafor, who had called Nora 4 weeks into the school year to say that Liam was one of the most kind-hearted children she had taught in 16 years, and she thought Nora should know that. These were people who said Nora's name with warmth, and meant it when they said it. When the candles were lit and the room began to sing, Nora stood behind her son, with her hands resting gently on his small shoulders. He looked up at her. There was already green frosting on his bottom lip from the taste he had stolen while she was not looking. She had been looking, she had said nothing. Some things are worth allowing. "Make a wish, Mamma," he said. She laughed, wide, unhurried, unguarded, the kind of laugh that only comes after a woman has walked through fire and found out on the other side that she was never the thing that burned, but she was the thing that survived. "Baby," she said, "I already got it." He blew out all 5 candles in one breath. The room filled with the sound of people clapping who meant it. People who had chosen to be in that room, not because obligation put them there, because they wanted to be there. The gold locket caught the October morning light through the tall kitchen windows. It glowed at her throat like something small and steady that had been pointing the right direction all along, even in the years when she had not been ready to follow it. She was following it now. Before we close, I want to talk to you directly, not as a storyteller finishing a story, as someone who has been sitting with Nora's story and thinking about what it actually means, because there are 5 things this story taught me that are worth saying out loud. The first thing, silence is not weakness. There is a kind of strength that looks from the outside exactly like patience. That gets read as submission. That gets taken advantage of by people who confuse being quiet with having nothing to say. Nora was never powerless. She was building. She did not fight every battle as it came because she understood, somewhere below words, that winning the small fights would cost her the ability to win the one that mattered. She was not silent because she was afraid. She was silent because she was not finished yet. The second thing, love should never ask you to become invisible. If the person you are with only accepts you when you are smaller, quieter, more convenient, more faded from your own life, that is not love. That is control wearing love's face. And it is one of the hardest things in the world to see from inside it, because the person doing it to you is usually the one you trusted most completely. The cruelty does not arrive loud at the beginning. It arrives in small, quiet pieces. A dinner eaten alone. A silence where a defense should have been. A pause a fraction too long, until one day you are in your own backyard at your child's birthday party, holding a cake you made with your own hands, and the person who was supposed to choose you is showing 40 people exactly how little you mean to him. The third thing, this one is for the people in that backyard. Your silence is a vote. Every time we choose our comfort over someone else's pain, every time we look at our shoes while something wrong happens 3 feet away from us, we vote. And we tell the person being hurt that they are alone in this. We make the world a little colder, and we tell ourselves it was not our place to make it warmer. A 4-year-old boy was the only person in that yard brave enough to run to his mother. Think about that. Think about what that says about every adult who was standing around him. And the next time you are in a room where a moment asks you to choose between comfort and courage, remember the 4-year-old. Be braver than the adults in that yard. The fourth thing, your worth does not change based on what someone does with it. Marcus tried to weaponize Nora's love. Ruth tried to engineer her erasure from her own family. Vanessa treated her life like a hallway to walk through, on the way to somewhere more useful. And through all of it, Nora's worth did not change. And not once, not even on a bathroom floor at 3 in the morning, with nothing in a bank account that someone else had emptied. Her worth was always there. It was always hers. It was always real. The only question was when she would decide to pick it back up. The fifth thing, the one I want you to carry with you, the woman they underestimate today is very often the one they answer to tomorrow. Not because she got lucky, not because her father had resources, but because she never stopped being exactly who she was. Even when it cost her everything, even when she was sitting on a bathroom floor at 3 in the morning with a sleeping child beside her and a world telling her in every way it knew how that she did not matter. Even then, she knew who she was. The gold locket did not point the right direction. Hers because it was gold. It pointed the right direction because she finally decided to follow it. And that is something no one can take from a woman who has decided to remember it. No husband, no mother-in-law, no carefully planned intruder, no viral video, no fraudulent credit card, nothing. So before you judge someone's silence, consider what they might be building inside it. Before you underestimate the quiet woman in the room, consider what she might already know that you do not. And if you are that woman right now, if any part of Nora's story felt less like entertainment and more like looking in a mirror, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not at the end of your story. You are at the floor. And the floor, as it turns out, is exactly where you find out what you are made of. If this story stayed with you, and if any part of it felt real, share it today. Not tomorrow, today. Because someone in your life might be sitting on a bathroom floor right now, and they might need to hear that the floor is not the ending, that the quiet woman is not powerless, that the locket still points true north even when everything around it is in chaos. Subscribe to this channel. Every week we bring you stories like this one, stories about strength that did not announce itself, about consequences that arrived slowly and then all at once, about people who found their way back to themselves when the world gave them every reason not to. Hit the notification bell so you never miss one. I will see you in the next one.